service catalog is the way that we talk through how we aggregate the services, the applications, the information, what's going to be delivered to the users. But at the end of the day, we still have to deliver it to them somehow. So there's an element of technical delivery, the underlying IT or the underlying technology that actually delivers these applications, makes the services accessible. So you've got physical, virtual, streaming. There's a myriad of different ways that these services can be delivered. Dave, do you want to talk us through a few of those?
Yeah, so look, at a high level to start with, the Workspace Delivery level, as you've said, is really the way we deliver services into the service catalogue. So that includes a bunch of things such as physical desktops, we've got virtual desktops or VDI, we've got application streaming, application remoting, SaaS applications, mobile applications. So these are the high level concepts, I guess, which deliver those services. And perhaps what we could do now is talk about what's beneath some of those areas. So look, if we start with, I guess, physical desktop and get that out of the way, I think it's a well understood methodology in delivering services. So Scott, did you want to perhaps comment on that to start with, and then we'll move into the other areas?
Yeah, physical desktops are a pretty well known and well established area in terms of how we take services to market. There's still quite a large penetration in our customer base of the physical desktop, and for certain types of user profiles that won't go away. Generally, that physical desktop is upgraded on a cycle and is managed generally through System Center Configuration Manager is the tool that we use. We extend System Center Configuration Manager is still the central portal for desktop and mobile device management for Microsoft. What they do is extend that to mobile devices with Intune. So Intune can report into System Center Configuration Manager, provide that one pane of glass or central point to actually monitor and manage all those different types of devices.
So the AirWatch portfolio allows you to have a different way of managing physical desktops, because not all customers are in a position to go through a Windows 8.1 upgrade. So we're seeing an emergence of customers looking to MDM to help fill that gap before they can do the next OS upgrade. So for those users that need a full Windows experience from a non-Windows device, or remote access in a seamless manner back into the data center, virtual desktop can be an enabler for that, right?
Yeah.
Virtual desktop gives you the ability to access that virtual environment or that desktop environment, get access to your corporate resources without things like VPNs needing to be connected, which then yields a far greater user experience. In the same token, we have technology such as app remoting and app virtualization, because users don't necessarily always need a full Windows experience. Sometimes they need an application.
So talk us through the difference between a virtual desktop and a virtual application.
So a virtual desktop is effectively the whole operating system and applications and data all running in a virtual environment. So it means it's highly mobile. We can push it from different physical nodes. We can access it from any device through communication protocols.
Yeah, it's really what gives you that session portability.
Yeah,
because,
absolutely.
Because your operating system instance is running in the data center. If you move from building to building or device to device, you can keep your current state of your desktop.
So traditional thin clients kind of thing.
Traditional thin clients have their place because they're low management overhead, they're stateless, so if they blow up, nobody really cares. Where we actually see things like session portability become really important in the financial services industry and health industries. Health, because you've got a clinician that might go from one bedside to another bedside, and they, instead of having to go back to the flight deck at the nurse's station to enter all the information, they can have access to all of the patient information directly there at the point of care. And what we don't want them to do is to have to log into a system, log into an application, and go through that login process, which takes minutes, and in many health organizations takes many minutes, to be able to have that in like sub 10-second reconnect. So for instance, a clinician could walk up to a patient entertainment system, insert their smart card, it prompts them with a username, they put in the username, or actually prompts them for a PIN, put in their PIN, it logs into their virtual desktop. With all their applications open, they can do what they need to do, enter the information. When they're done, they pull the smart card out, it drops the session, goes back to playing Foxtel or whatever it was doing. They go to the next bedside, they plug it in, put their PIN in again, and it reconnects at less than 10 seconds to get you back to where you were at the previous station. And that means you don't have to log in again. So what we've seen in the time and motion studies is we can go from 15-minute login times down to sub 7 seconds, which then yields that productivity gain we were talking about before.
And the difference, sorry, with that, between that and a virtual application or a streamed application, just
Yep.
what?
So a virtual application is effectively, we're doing the same kind of thing we're doing the virtual desktop in that we're isolating it. Generally, you would virtualize an application to overcome coexistence challenges. So you've got, say for instance, SAP. SAP relies on a specific version of IE. It relies on a specific version of Java and Silverlight. Every time you get an update to it, it has some kind of issue with SAP. So what you might want to do as an end user is to capture that package, those group of applications that need to be standardized, and then allow you then to isolate it so that when an update is applied to your underlying operating system, it doesn't affect your SAP environment. So that then gives the end users and IT control over how often they update, how they go about doing updates. It also means that they can reduce operational overhead because they don't push an update out on Tuesday and the next minute the help desk lights up with calls because their critical application is broken. So as an example, VMware enabled the delivery of remoted applications. So a remote application is effectively the same as a virtual desktop, but it's just access to the application, not the full Windows experience. So that's the delineation between a remoted app and a virtual desktop. VMware have some technology for on-prem called Horizon. Horizon provides you the ability to deliver your remote applications and your desktops from the same platform. Your applications come from an RDSH backend, and your desktops come from either a Windows desktop operating system like Windows 7 or Windows 8.1 or a server 2008, 2012 type operating system. So again, operating system is dependent upon application compatibility. So all we do is we broker those resources through Horizon on-prem. We can also broker those same services from the public cloud with Horizon Air. We provide the same level of brokerage to a virtual desktop or a remote application. And then if you need that overcome those coexistence challenges with your application virtualization, we leverage a piece of technology called ThinApp. And ThinApp allows you to then have that isolation and segregation away from other applications.
So the golden rule would kind of be virtualize the desktop where you can, virtualize the app where you can't. Is that?
No, well, it's
more complex than
horses. It is a little bit more complex than that.
I think it's also not an either-or situation here. I mean, the elements of the Workspace Delivery framework are not in isolation of each other. So the combination of these technologies together can solve a certain use case.
Correct.
So for example, you can use a packaged application on a physical desktop. You can use a remoted application inside a VDI session. You know, there are different ways to structure this to get to the outcome. I think the important thing to do is that if you're abstracting the service from the underlying infrastructure, that gives you the ability to be flexible. So if an application is installed in Windows on a physical device, it's stuck there. There's not much we can do with that. If it's virtualized, we can present it to the physical desktop. We can present it to the virtual desktop. We can present it in a remoting situation as well.
We talked about the physical platforms, the virtual desktops, remote applications. Where does the public app and the SaaS sort of model fit into the Workspace delivery?
So if we look at the VMware strategy for this, is a real convergence between desktop, which is your traditional Windows-centric applications, may they be virtual, physical, and mobile applications and SaaS-based apps. So what we're seeing is that we can take all of those services that you would traditionally consume, like hosted applications, virtual apps, all those sorts of things, and deliver them side by side to mobile apps. So give you a single management framework for enforcing the delivery of, your local Outlook client, right? Being able to push that down in the mobile application standpoint, but then also deliver beside it all of the other services that you want, so SaaS, remoted apps. So the way to think about remoted apps is really that they're basically a transitional SaaS, or we call them application as a service. But they're effectively delivered to an end user in the same kind of delivery mechanism as a SaaS-based application. So you log into it, it's very easy to access, streamlined and all of that. But it basically is for your traditional Windows application. So it allows you to mobilize those sorts of things. So in a mobile context on a mobile device, like an Apple iPad or whatever, the user experience is a mobile experience, the same as it would be in a consumer grade, public app store. But then there's a whole bunch of other things. So it's not just the mobile applications is more than just your public app store, right? your Google Play Store or your Apple App Store. There's also things like the SAP Marketplace. So being able to take those mobile applications from those specific vendors and pump them through the same management framework to enforce that they get delivered to your end users in the same way. So again, giving you multi-purchase program access to SAP clients and pushing those to endpoints and those sorts of things. So it's more, how do we take whatever services are appropriate to you as an end user and push it down to your device? And that's ultimately, I guess, where we're trying to get to, is we treat those the same as your traditional apps. We treat the SaaS apps the same as your traditional applications.
From a Microsoft perspective, the elements that make up the solution really is, firstly, is remote desktop services, and you can deliver that from your on-prem Windows Server 2012 R2 instances, or you can actually deliver that through Windows Azure and use the public cloud as your platform to deliver the service. In terms of application virtualization, the delivery mechanisms for the application delivery from that layer for us is AppV and RDS.
So the other important, I suppose, application service that we're seeing a lot of customers consume, probably 90 to 100 or 99% of our customers are using, is the Office suite. So traditionally, it's a thick client that runs on your desktop, and more often than not, users consume that. As part of the Office 365 offering, there's also Office Online. So being able to, once again, consume data using an online web application, such as using a traditional and well-known interface, such as Word, such as Excel, can be, you can do that via an iPad or a tablet device. Yes. Certainly achievable, once again. From the end user's perspective, they don't actually know that they're actually running it in a web session.
And I think the other thing there is, one of the reasons we did a lot of virtualization, especially of Office, was cross-platform. And I suppose, obviously, Microsoft, under Satya Nadella's leadership, doing a lot more cross-platform development. There are now native clients for iOS, there's native clients for Android. So the ability for a user to use the Office platform and the applications natively on that device without having to do some magic in the middle to actually deliver that and have a native experience is obviously making life a bit easier from a IT perspective as well.
Yep. Yeah, so Greg, you've been working with a few of the customers, and you've got a number of customers who have had some real complexity around the Workspace Delivery within the mobility framework. You want to talk us through those?
Yep. So recently, for a while now, we've got a strategic government department that we've been doing quite a bit of work with, and they've got a number of challenges dealing with a number of untrusted devices out there. A combination of that with the traditional corporate desktops, as well as remote users in remote locations, and being able to look at all those types of scenarios and come up with a solution that can meet those needs, but has consistency across all of them. And in this situation, there were a number of Microsoft and Citrix-based solutions that not only provided them with delivery mechanisms using traditional desktops, but also VDI type solutions based on a Citrix platform. And in addition to that, an overlying management service such as Intune to ensure that there was consistency across all those devices.
So what were the actual challenges that led up to that, though? So if you're looking at the fact that they did have different workspace delivery methods, so different types of application delivery platforms and physical platforms and remote, what were they experiencing, or what was it actually that drove them to change the way they work? So
the challenges before we were engaged were that the customer wasn't. They were aware that there were a variety of scenarios that they had to deal with. At that point in time, they were looking at first and foremost at technology solving the problem, without actually taking a step back and getting an understanding of what their user base actually were doing out there, firstly, and secondly, what challenges each of those user bases actually had. After they did that, they were in a better position to come up with some strategic technologies that would meet those particular use case requirements.
So, and what you've really done is sort of linked the workspace delivery all the way back to the fact that you've got to start with the user differentiation. You've got to look at use cases, look at the types of users.